Hello friends, welcome to the Global Pulse. When America bought land abroad to settle its slaves and settled in a new country. America was never just a land of whites. America was the land of red Indians, which had come down to just 2% by the 19th century. The population of African blacks brought to America as slaves was 15%, but they were not counted. They were slaves. Have you heard of any country which has been settled by another country by buying land abroad, and that too for its slaves? That means an entire country has been formed to settle the slaves. Yes, it has happened, and its connection is associated with America. Right now, the presidential election in America is getting faster, so it is worth taking a look at the history of America. Donald Trump or Kamala Harris wins the U.S. election, but the result will be seen as a change in policy regarding the whole world. That's why it's important to know this important story of American history. Uncle Sam's past, present and future all affect the rest of the world. There have been many such extinct chapters in American history, which may be less known today, but its message has been very wide. This country of Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr. and Kennedy was liberated in 1776, that is, 171 years before the independence of India. Once called the country of hippies and gypsies, this country named America kept changing constantly. From the era of jazz music to pop music, lifestyle changes, civil society, civil rights and steps to eliminate racial discrimination against black people. A country like America has taught many lessons to the world. Today we are talking about the period when America bought land to end slavery and created a new country. Here is the story of slavery. America was never just a land of whites. America was the land of red Indians, which had come down to just 2% by the 19th century. The population of African blacks brought to America as slaves was 15%, but they were not counted. They were slaves. They had long replaced the Irish laborers who came with the British, but they had no rights. Slavery was legal there. They had been working in American farms for 200 years, engaged in constructions and buildings in American capital, making America the global center of industry, generation after generation. But there were some people to whom this practice of slavery in America caused pain, human pain. The question that arose in their mind was, how can a human being be a slave of another human being? It was quite long before Abraham Lincoln. U.S. President James Monroe thought of freeing them. They were also liberated from the northern states, but now the question arose as to where these freed people should go. What, back to Africa? Then came the idea of establishing a new country. Let us know the story of that country which America settled abroad by purchasing land. The idea of building a new country. They had lived here for generations. They did not even know the villages and houses of their ancestors in Africa. Then President James Monroe and some wealthy feudal lords began to search for land in Africa to settle them. The area chosen was West Africa. A country was created by buying land there, Liberia. That is land of liberation. Its capital was made Monrovia, named after the then U.S. President James Monroe. It also got a flag like America, which is there till date. Whose role was behind the new country? Apart from U.S. President James Monroe, prominent among those who played an important role in the settlement of Liberia were Paul Cuffe, who was the founder and first president of the American Colonization Society. He played an important role in buying land and establishing the settlement for the establishment of Liberia. Jedediah B. Crum was the first governor of Liberia. He was instrumental in establishing the settlement in Liberia in 1822 and became the country's first leader. Robert Ellis was the second governor of Liberia. He played an important role in the development of the country and helped make Liberia an independent country. He declared Liberia an independent country in 1848 and became the country's first president. How was the money raised? The U.S. spent about $1 million to settle Liberia, which was a huge amount at the time. The amount was collected by the American Colonization Society, to which several American citizens and organizations contributed. The U.S. government passed an act in 1819, allotting a sum of $100,000 for the establishment of Liberia. In addition, the American Colonization Society campaigned to raise funds for the establishment of Liberia and received contributions from many American citizens. Several U.S. citizens personally donated money for the establishment of Liberia, including U.S. politician and Senator John Calhoun contributing $10,000. U.S. politician and Senator Henry Clay contributing $5,000 and American politician and lawyer Daniel Webster contributing $2,000. Where and how did people settle? Before Liberia was formed, various African tribes lived in that place. The American Colonization Society purchased 36,000 acres of land from a Diola tribe leader in 1822 for the establishment of Liberia for $300. This land was in the vicinity of Liberia's capital, Monrovia. They first sent ships to bring settlers and gave them land. However, many African tribes also resisted the settlement because they were apprehensive of losing their land and independence. The British government also opposed the American effort. The slave owners were also protesting. They feared that with the freedom of these slaves they would lose their slaves too. But despite these protests, the American Colonization Society continued to work to establish Liberia and gradually developed the country. The huge challenges of a unique country. The story of Liberia is interesting and unique in itself. It is a country that was founded by descendants of American slaves who were looking for freedom and equality. This story begins in the 18th century, when slavery was at its peak in America. Many American slaves were looking for freedom, but they had to fight for their rights. At the same time, the American Colonization Society decided to establish a settlement in West Africa. The purpose of this society was to give freedom to slaves and to give them the opportunity to start a new life. The society bought land in West Africa and established a settlement there, which was named Liberia, which means freedom. Liberia was founded in 1822. The name Liberia is derived from the Latin word libere, which means freedom. But the journey to Liberia was not easy. The country faced many challenges, such as economic crisis, political instability, and social tensions. The inhabitants of Liberia had to fight for their identity and independence. Its history is full of ups and downs. After the establishment of Liberia, descendants of many American slaves began to settle there. They also brought with them American culture and political order. The government of Liberia was created on the lines of the U.S. government, consisting of the President, Senate, and House of Representatives. How is Liberia today? Today's Liberia is quite different from the American dream. This country is also trying to overcome civil war and economic chaos like other African countries. The Republic of Liberia, officially the Republic of Africa, is a country on the west coast of Africa, bordered by Sierra Leone, Guinea, Côte d'Ivoire, and the Atlantic Ocean. In 1980, the military overthrew President William R. Tolbert in a coup d'état. With this, a period of instability began, which later turned into a civil war, in which thousands of people lost their lives, while the country's economy reached the brink of ruin. Now the president is Joseph Boakai. Today this country is spread over an area of 111,369 square kilometers. The population here is about 5,638,175. This country comes at number 175 in the Human Development Index. Does Liberia have a connection to the U.S. now? In the beginning, when America created this country, freed Africans were sent there. But how much people who have been enslaved for generations would like the new country? After a few consignments, people were not ready to leave. The country was formed, but those who were coming out of slavery from America remained less populated. Today, those American slave descendants are just 5% of that country. After 15 years of settled, that is in 1847, Liberia declared itself independent from America and tried to create its own identity. The U.S. provides financial assistance to Liberia. Many Liberians also live in the U.S. American universities run educational programs in Liberia and Liberian students go to study in the United States. However, the U.S. intervention in the rest of Liberia's affairs is now negligible. Thank you very much for being with us. Always stay tuned for the latest news and updates across the globe. Goodbye and see you soon.